All right, folks, welcome back for video number 5 of our Mk262 Mod 1 cloning series. Unfortunately, I'm in a freaking hurry today. Seems like I've started videos like that several times recently, but today it's not my fault and I don't feel that bad. Because what happened was I finally got a hold of some of the Remington 7.5 primers. There they are, Remington 7.5 small rifle bench rest primers. Early on, we suspected that this is the primer that is in the Black Hills Mk262 ammunition, which I should have it out here, right? It deserves a little, yeah, this stuff. This is what we're cloning. We've been doing it, like I said, this is video number 5. So, like I said, I'm in a rush. So if you need a little bit more background, you might want to step back. So I got these Remington primers, and I actually, yesterday's video, if you happen to watch the Starline brass case capacity video, I took one of the pieces of brass that we've been using. So these first 5 rows in this 100 round ammo box are the rounds we've used for all of our videos. Today would have been the 5th firing on these guys, but when I threw a primer into one to check case capacity in that last video, yesterday's video about Starline brass, and I was wanting to compare it to these Lake City, I had a box of these, or I had a sleeve of these, just happened to be sitting on the bench. So that's the primer that I put into it. And the problem, it was loose. Not terrible, it's still usable, but it was a whole lot looser than I like to feel. And it was a whole lot looser than the way that brass had been feeling with CCI number 41s, which is, the primer we've been using up to this point. So immediately what I did is I grabbed another piece of our Lake City brass, once fired Lake City brass, popped the primer out of it and put in one of those, and it felt just fine. So I think the situation we're in is that this initial 50 pieces have been stretched out a little bit by the CCI 41 primers. I ran into this in another recent video. I think it was a Bob's Bullet 55 grain full metal jacket bowtail video where we had been using CCI number 41s. I think that was Federal 223 brass is what we were using in that. Yeah, I tried switching from the CCI 41 over to Winchester small rifle primers, and they felt loose. I had to stick with the CCI 41s. So I think that's what we've run into here is the Remingtons and the Winchesters are just a little bit smaller diameter than the CCI 41 primers. So what that meant for today's video is that I needed a new batch of brass. I either needed to stick with the CCI 41 primers or I needed to prep a new set of brass, and I decided to go ahead and just prep the brass. What I want to do, so in the last video we finalized some good loads, especially one that's especially good with accurate 25-20. I'll use these 50 pieces as our test rounds for that load. We've mentioned in previous videos that we want to, as we finalize a load, we want to load some up and then test them over time against the Black Hills ammunition to see what sort of temperature variations and things like that we see. So I'm going to take those old 50 pieces, make those our test brass with the CCI 41 primers, since that's what we use to work up that load, and then we'll use this new batch with the Remingtons from here on out, assuming the Remingtons do okay. I honestly haven't even had a chance to give them a really close inspection to see if they do look exactly the same. I think they're pretty close, but I'll tell you what, after we finish the range time and get back to the bench, I'll look at that a little closer and we'll get some pictures and crap. Maybe weigh them. We had weighed the primers in the Black Hills back in video 1. So just no time for that. So that's the problem. I've spent basically all morning long trying to get this this new batch of brass ready to go, because a good portion of it had not been tumbled at all. So they've been resized. I deburred the flash holes. I uniformed the primer pockets. I trimmed them. I deburred and chamfered the case mouth. So all of that stuff had to happen here today. So it's been a couple trips through the tumbler and some time in a dehydrator to dry them off and make sure that, you know, there's no moisture left. So I need to be on the range in about an hour if I really want to take my time and have plenty of daylight to shoot. So I would rather maybe rush the video a little bit at this point and then have plenty of time to shoot. So that's the plan. That's what we are going to do. Today's powder is Varget. We've had this requested a lot, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it does, right? It's pretty bulky powder. We're going to run out of case pretty quick, I think. You know, these are going to be heavily compressed, I would imagine. Yet looking around at the load data, though, I'm thinking maybe this powder won't be as bad as I thought. You know, back in video 1, we discussed our powder options, and I had talked about some quick load data. But now that I look a little closer, on the Hodgdon website with Varget, they show a max charge of 23.7 grains, and that's 223 pressure. The Nosler website actually has 556 data, and they go up to 24.0 grains with the custom competition. So I want to exceed that just a touch. Assuming, you know, it doesn't just get so super crunchy that it's ridiculous. And I don't think it will. I dropped 24.5 grains into one of these a few minutes ago, and I think we're going to be good to go as far as case capacity. It'll be compressed, but it won't be absurdly compressed. So that's our load data. We're going 23.3 grains up to 24.5 grains. So we're going beyond Nosler's data by a half a grain. We may run into pressure there on the last load or two. Which, to be honest, I wasn't really expecting. I thought we could, well, you know, with like a 55 grain bullet, you just fill up the case and there's no worry about pressure. But looking at the pressure numbers, the Hodgdon website does include the pressure. It's just a couple thousand away from max, 223 max. Okay, I'm rambling. All right, so we're primed. We're ready to rock. Now I've had my scale warming up. I'm going to initially weigh them out with the Lyman Gen 6 powder dispenser, and then we'll finish trickling them just perfect before we call it a good load. And I forgot to zero my scale with the pan. Someone had asked me recently, you know, why I hadn't been using the Lyman Gen 6 in the last couple videos, and I think what I've settled on here is using the Lyman Gen 6 for extruded powders, because, you know, the extruded powders are a whole lot easier to clean out of it, and it makes it, you know, pretty easy. But for ball powders, I'm just going to use my normal powder measure, my RCBS Uniflow, because, you know, the ball powders, you can throw charges that are pretty much perfect most of the time. So that's kind of the flow I've been getting into. That's why you haven't necessarily seen the Gen 6 in the last couple videos, because we were shooting ball powders. So we basically covered everything. I think that's pretty much about enough, right? We're shooting just like the previous videos. We're going to shoot 25 rounds with the Sierras, 25 rounds with the Noslers, and just see how they compare. So I'm going to shut off the camera. I'm going to focus on getting these charges weighed out. Doing my best to get these as perfect as I can get them. So I might check in with you guys again once I'm seating bullets. All right, so we've jumped straight out here to the range to save some time, and also I have to get my cameras out early enough. It's super humid out today. It's actually unseasonably warm. It's in the 80s. It's super humid. The sun just did set though, but I have to get the cameras out so the lenses don't fog up and all of that crap. And I've had the gun outside, so it's up to temperature. The only thing that isn't is our ammo. It's only been out here about 30 minutes. So it might still be a little colder than our ambient temperature, but that's okay. It shouldn't be a huge difference. I mean, you know, 10 or 15 degrees difference between inside and outside. Shouldn't take that long to equalize, you wouldn't think. All right, we're going to start with the Sierras. 23.3 grains is first. You know, I thought I might be starting a little bit too hot, but man, I'm glad we started where we did. 25-24, and a really nice group. I'm cool with those numbers. So let's move on. 23.6. We'll just go ahead and stick with the Sierra. We'll shoot all 5 groups with the Sierra before we move on to the Nosler. $23.9. Yeah, so that shot that went high felt just fine. I'm a little disappointed in the standard deviation numbers. I thought that, you know, a nice full case of Varget would give us some good numbers. So our brass still looks really good. So moving right along, 24.2 grains. So the brass still looks dandy, still looks outstanding. This velocity is a little worse than I expected, right? I thought we'd flirt with 2,700 feet per second, but I don't think 24.5 grains is going to get us there. Let's shoot it and find out. All right, so we might not have got the velocity we want, but man, that's looking like a pretty darn good accuracy powder to me. Excellent groups. Let me check this brass. Yeah, look at a couple of pieces of the brass here. I'm not even seeing any ejector marks or anything. Like, it looks 100% good. Interesting. All right, I'm going to give my eyes a few minutes to rest, the barrel a few extra minutes to cool down, and then we'll move on to the Nosler. All right, time to see what the Nosler will do. 23.3 grains of Varget. Okay, 23.6. All right, so the primers still look fine. Group's looking good. Velocities are, you know, kind of weird. Like, why did we lose 2 feet per second? I don't know. I tried to brighten up the camera a little bit. It is very dark. But our 24x50 Vortex, we're gathering plenty of light. I can see fine. As long as you guys can kind of see, that's all that really matters, right? We only got 15 rounds left. We're shooting good groups. We can deal with a slightly dark camera image, right? All right, moving on, 23.9. $24.2. All right, last up, 24.5. All right, freaking amazing target. I can't wait to measure these guys out. So let's get back inside. All right, let's start out with a quick look at the brass. As is tradition, nothing to see here. See, nice round primers. I'll tell you what, let me just grab a couple out of here. Let's see, that's the Max Nosler row. And that's the Max Sierra row. Those are pretty good looking primers. Nice rounded edges. Don't see any shiny spots from ejector marks. So yeah, there's really nothing to see here. Everything looks good. They're just dirty because I, shoot suppressed. That's what you got to deal with. But no trouble found. All right, folks. Another pretty darn good target. Our best group of the day was 23.6 grains here with the Nosler at a 417. And that was that last shot I dropped low, man. Whew, that was almost a good one. But didn't quite get the job done. It's funny, right here in the middle, we've had our worst two groups, I think. Yeah. 23.9 with the Sierra was a 1.17, and 23.9 with the Nosler was a 0.902. So if that's as bad as it gets, man, I'll take it. So we had 2 in the 4s, 3 in the 5s, and 2 in the 6s. So just all around, man, good shooting. How in the hell do you pick a load or a favorite group out of a target like this, right? The vast majority of this is me. So it's just, shooting frickin' lasers, man. I think I'm ready to say that the freaking Nosler is a shooter. Remember back, earlier in the series, overall, I haven't had all that much luck with Nosler bullets for accuracy. And it got off to a little bit of a rough start here at the beginning of this Mk262 series. But now, these last couple videos, it's been hanging right in there with the Sierra. And I'm ready to say that this is officially the first Nosler bullet that I've got to shoot well. So pretty darn happy about that. There were a few weird velocity things. Like we had this 23.3 to 23.6 where we actually lost 2 feet per second. Our standard deviation numbers were kind of crappy all around. The Nosler was slightly better. We did have a couple in the teens, where most of the Vargets, or most of the Sierras were in the 20s, but they still weren't that impressive. But we had a couple instances where, like here we lost 2 feet per second. Up here, we only gained 5 feet per second. I don't have an explanation for that, other than to say, I suspect, if these were 10-shot groups or 15-shot groups or something like that, where we had a little bit more data to go on, this would smooth itself out and we would probably see an increase. But at the same time, there's a lot of people, when they're doing load development, that's one of the things they're looking for, is a velocity plateau. And it can signal a forgiving range in your charge weights. So maybe that's what we're seeing, but with standard deviation numbers this crappy, you don't know what the heck's going on there. So our max velocities, right, we got to 2642 and we got to 2625. Little bit disappointing. We missed the mark by over 100 feet per second with both bullets. You know, if we look at the how quickly it was increasing, I mean, about 100 feet per second takes us down to kind of this range. So almost 1 grain of powder to gain 100 feet per second. And for simplicity's sake, if we just assumed that an additional grain of powder would gain us another 100 feet per second, then we're up to 25.5 grains. We didn't see any pressure signs with 24.5, but we're already well over any published max that I can find. And I really wouldn't want to go much farther without finding somebody else that's done it before, maybe. I don't know. But one thing I feel like we need to investigate in the next video is our new primer, right? The new Remington 7.5, to see if how these guys compare in velocity. And, you know, that'll be powder dependent, and, you know, there'll be no straightforward answer to that question, most likely. But I need to brighten things up, don't I? Yeah, maybe a little. But yeah, okay, so next video, we'll load up some test rounds, maybe with Accurate 2520, and maybe we'll grab one of these Varget loads. We'll load them up with both of our primers and see how the velocities compare. Speaking of primers, let's have a quick up-close look at the Remington 7.5 next to the primers that we pulled out of the Black Hills ammo back in video 1. It's really, really close. You know, mine, several of you guys sent me pictures and stuff of the Remington 7.5 whenever we were trying to figure out what primer it was. And I definitely still think this is the best match. But there are a few subtle differences. And the 7.5 is about 1/10 of a grain lighter. The Black Hills were about 3.6 grains, and these guys were closer to 3.5. So I'm still not confident that we've got the exact primer that they're using, but we're pretty darn close. We are definitely pretty darn close. Yeah, so back to the, my notes on the powders. As far as the ball powders go, we tried CFE 223, we tried Accurate 2520. The 3 others that I had chosen as good candidates were BLC2, Winchester 748, and kind of a weird one being Lever Evolution. And then on the extruded powder side of things, we wanted to try IMR 4895, AR Comp, and H 4895, which we may not test both H 4895 and IMR 4895. They're, very similar. We'll probably go with H 4895. I think it's one of their super duper extreme powders, isn't it? I don't know. I don't have the bottle over here close, but so you guys are bringing up other powders that you want to see as well. And like, Varget here, this was one. And I've seen a lot of requests for Ramshot tack. We've got tack around here somewhere. Yeah, some Ramshot tack. And 8208 XBR has been mentioned. Well, back to my initial quick load runs, it's only showing tack getting up to 2678, which is about what it estimated for Varget. So I'm afraid with tack, we may be in the same boat, maybe not quite getting there as far as velocities go. The other is 8208 XBR. You guys are mentioning that one a lot. And our estimate on that one was 2702. So I have doubts about both of those guys being able to hit our 2750, 2760 target that we've come up from, come up with from shooting the Black Hills. Maybe what we'll do is alternate back and forth. So today's video, we shot one that you guys wanted to see. Next video, we'll shoot one that I want to shoot. And maybe we should stick with the extruded side of things. Maybe we'll shoot AR Comp next time. I like AR Comp. I think it has good potential here in this application. So maybe that's what we'll try next. But the next video is going to be a few days, because tomorrow is actually, I need to take an elk scouting trip. I'm less than a month away from the opening of my elk season. I drew a Kentucky elk tag. It's an archery tag, so it doesn't really fit very well with this channel and its viewership. But those of you who want to follow what's going on there with that and all of my other hunting adventures, I do have a second channel called JRB Outdoors. So that's the plan, is tomorrow we'll have a video just going and doing a little bit of elk scouting and talking over the plan for elk season and kind of focusing on elk a little bit. I'll be sure to add a little button here to the end of the video so you can get to that channel if you want to subscribe over there. But for now, I think that's good enough. Very happy. We didn't hit the velocities we needed, but still pretty darn impressive performance from Varget. So if you want to help support the channel, come check me out at patreon.com/reloading. Every little bit helps, and I will see you guys next time.